numbers about the border: 10,000, 500,000, 175,000. Here we go. 10,000, that's the number of individuals estimated to cross into the United States illegally from Mexico on Wednesday alone. 500,000, that's the number of Venezuelans who are here illegally that the Biden administration is going to allow to stay and work for the next 18 months. But the big number is 175,000. According to something just published in the peer-reviewed journal called Science, 175,000 is the number of those employed by the Mexican drug cartels. 175,000. And in the last decade, 37% of them either died or were incarcerated. That's what drives it. There's too much money in the drug trade. We got to do something about that, or these problems will never go away.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to We Talk Freely. My name is Drew Smith, and we've got a little bit to talk about today, and mainly we're going to be focusing around the border and some election news. Also got a little bit on Russell Brand, so please stay tuned. So today, to get started on it, as you see, we're talking about the dynamic numbers that are coming across the border, and things have just started getting way out of hand. Started? No, they have been way out of hand. And the numbers are actually just really starting to roll out, and you're starting to see, like the Texas governor, he's making moves. I do believe he just declared a state of emergency, or declared an official invasion there at in Texas, and moves are being made to put up barbed wire and different things like that to just kind of reinforce a barrier to try to slow down this immigration problem that we've got going on. But with that being said, it's really not enough to really stop the problems. We see all the way up in New York, in previous episodes here on We Talk Freely, I've talked about Mayor Eric Adams up there complaining about how his city is being overwhelmed. And mayors all across this nation in major blue cities that called themselves sanctuary cities, they're all suffering now. They're suffering the same way that Texas was suffering as well. So going from there, and going from what you heard in just that last video, brings us into our first article here. Joe Biden blames his border crisis on MAGA Republicans. Now, this is probably one of the most ridiculous things that you're ever going to hear in the news, and of course, it comes from our president, Joe Biden. He goes on to claim, or let me read the article here for you. Since day one, the Biden administration has undone the progress of former President Trump's secure border, turning the U.S. into nothing but a playground for illegal aliens. However, in proper Democrat form, President Joe Biden spent much of his Thursday blaming MAGA Republicans for the worst border crisis in U.S. history. During the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute annual gala, Biden claimed Republicans have undermined his border security policies despite hundreds of thousands of illegal migrants crossing the country daily under his term. Quote, MAGA Republicans spent 4 years gutting the immigration system under my predecessor. They continue to undermine our border security today, Biden said. Y'all, it's the Republicans that are undermining border security. They're the ones that have caused the problem. Do y'all see what they're trying to do here? Do you see what Joe Biden's trying to do? Either he's trying to have a coherent thought and it's failing, or he's trying to put the blame of his own policies on the Republican Party. I don't ever remember Trump being the guy saying, welcome them all in. I don't remember Republican mayors and governors and senators saying, bring all your immigrants into our cities. We're a sanctuary city or sanctuary state. I'm pretty sure it was the Democrats this whole time. I remember specifically us being called racist and bigoted because we didn't want this mass invasion from across our border. In fact, the closest that I saw, and the most common that I saw, is Republicans would constantly say, we don't mind immigration as long as it goes through the proper process. Now let me ask you, who's the one sending federal agents down into Texas to cut the barbed wire to allow people to come in easier? Who's the one that's literally selling off the unbuilt chunks of the wall that Trump was trying to build. I don't think it's any of the Republicans that are responsible for this at all. So moving forward, Diamond Silk posted a video that I thought was very interesting today. As we talk about what's going on at the border, what got us to this point? Well, if you look at what's going on in Connecticut right now, I'm starting to hear something that we literally heard already once before. This video is a little bit long, but I want you to listen to the details. It's about 4 minutes, all right? Listen through it, and then I'll be right back.
In this primary alone, the city of Bridgeport received over 4,000 absentee ballot applications, an unprecedented number in the city and possibly the state. This trend, coupled with the State Election Enforcement Commission's recommendations regarding the misuse of absentee ballots in the city's 2019 mayoral election, has raised serious concerns about the potential for abuse in the absentee ballot system. On primary night, our campaign was victorious at the polls, with a stand of 470 votes based on incoming results. However, as absentee ballots were being tabulated, our lead dramatically eroded, ultimately resulting in a 2-1 loss margin with an ultimate election difference of 251 votes. Such a drastic shift in results raised red flags as they've had in the past. Today we are holding this press conference because we have gathered evidence indicating voter suppression and absentee ballot fraud. Multiple complaints have been filed with the State Election Enforcement Commission, including the most recent and irrefutable piece of evidence, an incriminating video for City Hall security footage showing Wanda Gita Paskey, the vice chair of the Bridgeport Democratic Town Committee, the district leader of the 136, and a city employee of Bridgeport, depositing absentee ballots at 999 Broad Street. Ms. Gita Paskey's involvement in this election is deeply concerning. She has been named in various complaints across many districts related to harassment, bullying, promises of Section 8, rent rebate, groceries, just to name a few. She was recommended by the State Election Enforcement Commission to the state's attorney's office for criminal investigation in reference to the charges regarding alleged misuse of absentee ballots in the 2019 primary election. Given her position and actions, there are legitimate questions regarding the integrity of the Democratic Town Committee. Moreover, her current alignment to the Ganim administration raises concerns about their knowledge and involvement in these alleged fraudulent activities. Our campaign believes that the integrity of our democratic process must be upheld, and we are deeply troubled by what appears to be voter suppression and absentee ballot fraud. We call upon the State Election Enforcement Commission to conduct a swift and comprehensive investigation into these allegations. Based on the compelling evidence at hand, the numerous complaints received, and the concerning personal interests involved, we are left with no choice but to seek legal remedies. Therefore, we will be petitioning the court to file an injunction against the primary election results, which have yet to be certified by the Secretary of State. This step is essential to prevent potential tainted results from being finalized. Furthermore, to prevent further abuse of absentee ballot system, we'll be seeking a restraining order against the distribution of any additional absentee ballot applications from the town clerk's office. It is imperative that the upcoming election process remains untainted and free from undue influence. In addition, we are calling upon the state police to take immediate action. We believe that the 2019 recommendation for investigation should be pursued vigorously to ensure accountability for any wrongdoing. Looking ahead, we advocate for supervised elections managed by the Secretary of State's office. This should extend to any senior building, private or public, that has more than 20 residents registered to vote. No one should be allowed to enter those buildings to collect ballots. Supervised elections will provide an additional layer of security and transparency, reassuring the voters of Bridgeport that their voices will be heard. and their votes will be counted fairly. We will call upon all relevant authorities and institutions in this state to take these allegations seriously and to act swiftly to protect our democratic process. Finally, this campaign is going all the way to November and will continue to campaign towards the general election. Bridgeport needs new leadership.
Wow. A lot of that sounds really familiar. Really familiar. Can't really put my finger on it. Where did we hear these kind of accusations before? Where did we hear stuff like this? I could have sworn the elections from 2020, 2019, I could have sworn that was the cleanest and clearest elections of all time. And now, here we have Democrats accusing Democrats of vote tampering, or however you want to list it. I find that very interesting. Now, are they going to be attacked like conservatives were? Are we going to see massive media outlash talking about how it's a conspiracy and there's nothing wrong? Or is the mainstream media going to try to sweep this story under the rug? Well, I will say this, not all mainstream media is sweeping this one under the rug. Here we got, I believe it's the 61 News. Let's hear what they got to say.
Well, the lady caught on camera allegedly stuffing white envelopes into this absentee ballot drop box works just feet away here at the front desk of the Margaret Morton Government Center. This is the post of Wanda Geter-Pataki, except she's not here. Put on leave pending the investigation into absentee ballot fraud. Still collecting her taxpayer-funded paycheck. Where's Wanda? Fox 61 made a house call.
Hello?
Yes, we're looking for Wanda.
Wanda's not here.
All right, yeah, we just, Matt Karen with Fox 61 News. We had a couple questions to ask her about the video that appears to show her stuffing the ballot box.
Nah, you have nothing to say about that.
Fox 61 learned Wanda Geter-Pataki is an operations specialist. She made about $60,000 in 2020, a public supporter of Mayor Joe Ganim. She also manages Pataki bail bonds and is a justice of the peace.
She was ultimately referred by SEC over to the state's attorney's office.
And yes, she's the same woman named in a 2019 State Elections Enforcement Commission ballot fraud investigation, which has been referred to the chief state's attorney's office for possible criminal charges.
Without getting into names, there's a city employee who works at the front desk, clearly, so no, the
supports
connection,
you.
no.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been, that's right.
And speaking of not getting into names.
You have to come back downstairs, young man.
Hi, who are you, ma'am?
I work downstairs at the front desk.
And your name?
Cheryl.
Cheryl?
That's Wanda, giving a false name to First Amendment Auditor Sean Paul Reyes during his recent visit to the city offices.
Excuse me, ma'am? You told me your name was Cheryl, but I seem to hear everybody calling you Wanda. Did you lie to me about your name, ma'am? Ma'am,
Sir,
did you lie to?
get my face.
Did you lie to me about your name, ma'am?
No, I don't lie to you about nothing.
Everybody's calling you Wanda, but you.
It's my name. My name is Wanda. Yes, it is.
Wanda also happens to be the vice chair of the Bridgeport Democratic Town Committee.
This same person was a celebrated political operative of the Connecticut Democratic Party. In 2019, she actually received a state party award at the El Grasso dinner. So this is somebody that the state Democratic Party knows.
State Democratic Party Chair Nancy DiNardo.
What do you know about her?
Actually, I really don't know that much about her. I'm not sure that I really know her. I know the family. I know she's the vice chair, and I know I have met her, but other than that, to say I know anything about her, I don't.
All this while Mayor Joe Ganim continues to question both the authenticity and custody of the surveillance video itself. And while a judge gets set to rule on Monday whether Bridgeport's primary results should be thrown out and a new primary be held. Reporting in Bridgeport, Matt Caron, Fox 61, Connecticut's news station.
Yeah, and so we see there more evidence of the Dropbox conspiracy theories from the original 2020 election. We see even in the smaller elections or lower level elections, however you want to refer to it, we see the same kind of corrupted issues from these drop boxes. Like many conservatives had said over and over and over again, these are a prime avenue for corruption, for fraud, for whatever you want to call it. We see it right there. And now we have additional investigations that are happening in these local elections. So if you have any friends that are saying that there was no fraud or no issues with the 2020 election, 2019-2020 elections, show them this. Show them how the Democrats are going after Democrats now. Because they didn't just use this against conservatives. They used it for every single seat that they wanted specific power for. Now I'm just curious, who's funding all of it? So moving on, we have people that are starting to wake up, I guess. And I thought this was an interesting article. Let me pull it up. From Newsmax, we have Dallas mayor switches party from Democrat Party to GOP, which I think is really cool. I'm glad to see that people are waking up and people are starting to make the switch. The article goes to say, Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson announced that he's leaving the Democrat Party and becoming a Republican after saying he sees the failed policies in other major U.S. cities led by Democrats. In a Friday opinion column for the Wall Street Journal, Johnson announced his party switch and wrote that American cities need Republicans and Republicans need American cities. Quote, "I don't believe I can stay on the sidelines any longer," Johnson wrote. "I have always tried to be honest and say what I think is right for my city. The future of America's great urban centers depends on the willingness of the nation's mayors to champion law and order and practice fiscal conservatism. Our cities desperately need the genuine commitment to these principles as opposed to the inconsistent poll-driven commitment of many Democrats that has long been a defining characteristic of the GOP." Well, I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to see it. I'm always a little worried about these, about people that do switch, though. Is he going to authentically vote towards the GOP? Is he going to vote conservative? Is he genuinely interested in that, or is he genuinely interested in catching the downvote ballot that we're probably going to see a lot of people do? Now, I want to give him all the credit where credit is due, and I hope for a good change. We definitely need to see more and more people switch over. We need to see more people waking up, because he's right. If you look around at all these major cities, I think it's like the top 10 of them that are blue. If you look at those cities and you look at the problems that they're having, I don't see any other way. We can't keep continually just blindly vote blue no matter who. We can't continuously stick with these policies that end up stealing money from people like you and me and give it to the people at the higher up. Nobody is getting helped by these Democrat policies. Even the people that, like, with the illegal immigration and even like the minority promises, we see this over and over and over again where they promise a better life for everybody in both these categories. But in reality, they're just robbing from one category to give to the other, and back and forth and back and forth. And the whole time that that's going on, they're draining other groups. They're draining the middle class and the upper class, not the rich class, but everyone from upper middle down is getting drained into these groups that they are promising to help. And when these groups receive anything, it's drained right back into the highest class, the rich class, the wealthy class. You know, we see these car companies, they're getting constantly bailed out by our taxes, but we don't see our cars getting any cheaper. Everything's getting more expensive. We keep hearing that Democrats are the champions of race relations and things like that, but yet we see the division growing larger and larger and larger. So I look forward to seeing how Mayor Johnson here, how he adapts, how he votes. I look forward to seeing a success story in this whole issue, in this whole thing. Moving outside of our country, article from Breitbart, and I've seen a bunch of articles on this. Poland announces it will stop supplying weapons to Ukraine. And I wonder myself after reading this headline if that's why Zelensky all of a sudden showed up in New York. You know, if Poland is not going to be supplying weapons to Ukraine, is that why he seriously needed to come beg us for more and more money? According to, I think it was Matt Gaetz was talking about it last night on Tim Pool, he says that we're officially right around 110 or 118 billion dollars that we have given to the Ukraine officially already. Meanwhile, the Biden administration is currently asking for more and more money. And I read another article saying that another 325 million is going over now. But according to the article, Warsaw, Poland on Wednesday announced it will stop supplying weapons to Ukraine in order to prioritize its own defense, according to local reports. Local outlet TVN24 reported that Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki announced that Poland will no longer transfer weapons to Ukraine and will now arm themselves with the most modern weapons. We know, quote, "We know perfectly well that Ukraine is defending itself against the brutal Russian attack. We won't jeopardize her safety. Our hub in Rezenzau," and apologize for the butchering of the pronunciations. I'm not good on names. In consultation with the Americans and NATO, still plays the same role. He repeatedly said in an interview with Polsat News in reference to the Polish city where international weapons shipments come in and depart from Ukraine. The announcement prompted shock throughout the international community as Poland has been one of Ukraine's staunchest supporters after Russian forces invaded it in February of 2022. However, Polish-Ukrainian relations have been strained in recent weeks after Poland banned Ukrainian grain imports to safeguard its own farmers. Poland made the move after a European Commission decided not to extend restrictions on Ukrainian grain and other produce, with Hungary, Poland, and Slovakia saying that they intend to maintain their own restrictions on Ukrainian imports, as reported by Breitbart News' Kurt Zinduka. So, essentially in this article, it's saying that Poland is looking out for number one. And I don't blame them. It's what we should be doing here in the United States. We've got too many problems on our own soil to have to be sending over billions and billions of dollars over into the Ukraine. You know, I think about the fires that we saw down in Hawaii. You know, I think of the homeless veterans that we have in the streets. Our border crisis is a great example. You know, the tent cities that we're seeing out in California and up in Chicago. All these issues need to be addressed before we start fighting for somebody else's borders. We need to do something, and fast. Poland's got the right idea, and I hope it works out well for them. And continuing to move forward, McCarthy pledges to remove Ukraine funding from Pentagon spending package. And the reason I wanted to follow the last article up with this is because this is a step in the right direction of us looking out for our own soil first. This article here from Just News goes on to say, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy on Friday vowed to remove funding for Ukraine from a Pentagon spending package amid conservative rebellion. The package, which has twice failed to clear the procedural vote due to internal Republican opposition, includes $300 million in funds for Kiev to continue its fight against the Russian military. McCarthy, in face of that opposition, told reporters Friday that it would be out and voted on by itself. Conservatives on both Tuesday and Tuesday, they need to correct this little typo in the article. I think it's supposed to say Tuesday and Thursday. But conservatives on both Tuesday and Thursday, if that's what it says, tanked procedural votes to allow debate on the measure, with the second vote derailing the chamber's legislative agenda and prompting House Republicans to send lawmakers home for the weekend. Georgia Republican Representative and Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene on Thursday, a close ally of the House Speaker, broke ranks with him to vote against the measure's advancement. McCarthy's announcement follows Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky's visit to Washington to secure support for a much larger $24 billion allocation of funds to bolster Ukraine's defense. You know, this is all leading into the government shutdown that everybody's been hearing about. And honestly, we do not need to be sending any more of this money over. Our national debt has gone out of control, and we are neglecting to supply our own military. We're neglecting to secure our own borders. And again, we need to start looking out for number one. These are good moves, and I support Marjorie Taylor Greene and all the other conservatives that are refusing to vote for the open spending, to raise the debt ceiling and all that. I definitely support what they are doing. It will take some time. It's going to take a lot of pain to deal with. But once we can get spending under control and we can get our economy back up and going, we can have the extra funds to spend this kind of money on allies and other countries that just need our help. All right, so moving forward, in what I'm saying about taking care of what we've got going on at home, I thought this was a really interesting TikTok that popped up today. And I actually found this TikTok coming from another video that was posted online here from Citizens Free Press. And I'll go into this one here in just a second. It looks like I'm going to be doing a duplicate, but it's not, I swear. This guy's actually got some kind of silly things to say about a serious issue, but he's being very serious in what he's saying. I want you guys to listen to exactly what he's got to say, and then we'll follow up with the next video and we'll talk about it thereafter.
Please. No, y'all, can we talk about it? Can we please talk about it? Let's take a moment to discuss. Let's take a moment to debrief. Let's take a moment to unpack. So I'm not really understanding why they're not telling y'all. Like, we all know that the world is behind, globally, because of the pandemic and stuff. But I don't understand why they're not stressing to y'all how bad it is. Like, I'm not even trying to be funny, but these kids are... I'm going to just say this. I teach 7th grade. They are still performing on the 4th grade level. I don't care how you flip it, turn it, swing it, swindle it. They still performing on the 4th grade level. Ain't nobody talking about how they just keep moving, passing them on. They just keep passing them on, 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 passing them on. I can put as many zeros in this grade book as I want to. They're going to move that child to the 8th grade next year. Ain't nobody talking about that. Why they not talking about that? Why they not telling y'all that y'all... And why don't y'all know that y'all kids not performing on their grade level? Why y'all don't know this? Why y'all don't know? Talk about it. Let's unpack. Because y'all be quick to talk about, oh, the teacher this, the teacher this, the teacher. It's your job, baby. I just got here 30 days ago. She was performing on the 4th grade level since 4th grade. Why we not talk? Well, let's talk about it. You the teacher. You supposed to be, again, she's been on the 4th grade level since the 4th grade. We in 7th grade now, so you let this child go 3 years and you never knew that your child was still in the 4th grade, ain't never left the... Hang it up, flat screen. In 4th grade is being nice. I still have kids performing on grade K, 1, 2, and 3rd grade levels. I could probably count on one hand how many kids are actually performing on their grade level. So just imagine, you don't know that your child been on the second grade level since the second grade, and they now in the 7th or 8th grade? Are you joking right now? And these are future leaders, our future doctors, our future nurses, our future... Please.
It would benefit you to watch his entire video because he breaks it down about how, like, and that's the kids that are doing well. Because I also teach 7th grade, and we have kids that have math grade level equivalents of 1st and 2nd grade, 3rd grade, many at 4th grade, very few at grade level, very few, if any, in some classes. These kids can't read, they can't decode, they have no vocabulary, no background knowledge. I've never seen anything like it. For context, for 8 years, I taught a self-contained program for significant language-based learning disabilities. Like, it was the most restrictive environment. It was the step before being sent to a specialized school. And my 5th graders with significant language-based learning disabilities could write better than non-disabled 7th graders can now. They can't write a sentence. They don't know what state they live in. They don't know what region of the country they're in. They have no background knowledge. Most of them don't know who the president is. You know, they're coming to school with no background knowledge. They have very low skills. And yes, part of my job is to help them find those skills. And as a special education teacher, like, I'm obviously going to be working with students who require specialized instruction, but I'm not talking about specifically my students. I'm talking about students in the grade, period. And this was the case last year. They can't take notes. They can't even attend to a video. They can't even attend to a 3-minute video clip. I can play it. I can tell them what it's going to be about. I can summarize what the video did, and not a single one can tell me what the video was about. Directions written on the board, stated by the classroom teacher, restated by me. All right, who can tell me what we just said? Crickets. They have no listening skills, no reading skills, no writing skills, and no math skills. And like this creator said, I've had them for 30 days. Not even, this is week 4.
Yeah, this is actually symptoms of a much bigger problem. Now, neither one of them are wrong in what they're talking about. I get it. You know, I'm the son of 2 educators, and I get the chaos that they're going through right now. But we have a unique situation here, and it's not the fault of COVID. COVID was an accelerant of the problem. The problem lies much deeper than that. The problem's been going on for much longer than that. You know, she was saying that these kids don't have the attention span for 3 minutes worth of videos. And if you've made it this long into this video, let me ask you, did you fast forward through a lot of these 3 to 4 minute videos? You gotta ask yourself why if you did. You know, think about that. You know, if we look at the Twitter generation and everything else in media, we're always looking for these 30-second quick clips. I mean, TikTok is a great example. I think it's kind of hilarious that these videos are on TikTok because I can pretty much guarantee most people didn't make it all the way through these videos. You know, people want fast, quick gratification. They want quick entertainment. They want it to just go really, really quickly. Boom, 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 boom. That's why YouTube has been moving towards doing YouTube Shorts. You know, the attention spans of people are getting lower and lower and lower and lower. And I honestly blame that on media. You know, I know that's one issue that I actually have with this show, is that typically my average time is around 50 to 55 minutes. And people don't typically want to watch a whole hour's worth of news. They don't want to sit there and listen to an hour of opinion and stuff like that. Instead, they want 30, 60, 90-second clips. So what she's saying about the video part, that's legit. That's a big problem that we're having here in the United States and in many other places in the world, is that people are looking for that quick gratification. Now, the teacher before had made some comments. why don't y'all know that your 7th graders are reading at a 4th grade level? Well, I've been having some discussions about that today, and one of the things that I've come to, or my opinion has come to, is that a lot of people just don't have the time to spend with their children anymore. And that's not a parent problem, and that's not a teacher problem, that's an economic problem. You know, some of the smartest people that we've seen in my lifetime come from my parents and my grandparents' generation. You know, the past 60 to 80 years, we've had some very genius people coming out of that. And the main reason being is that traditionally we had a situation at home, the nuclear family, where mom was home and dad would go to work. And mom would make sure that, you know, the education was getting taken care of. Kids would come home with a bunch of homework. And don't get me wrong, it is overwhelming to have homework like our parents and our grandparents had. But at the same time, you had a mom who could sit down at the dining room table and help you work through that. She would explain this stuff to you. She had time to work with you. And she even had some time to learn this stuff herself if she didn't even know it in the first place. But that's something that we are missing today. We have the old school standards, but for education, but we don't have the old school standards for the home. And so when these kids come home, mom and dad are at work most of the time, right? If it's a nuclear family, mom and dad are both at work and they don't get home till about 6 o'clock on average. And then, so what are parents doing when they get home? You know, mom and dad got to get home, you know, take a shower, clean off their whole work day and all that stuff. Then they got to quickly get the kids through their homework as fast as possible while cooking dinner, while cleaning up the house, taking care of the bills and all the responsibilities that they have to, and then put them kids to sleep as fast as possible. You know, there's no time for that extra education that the school boards are dependent upon. You know, and personally, I would think that we need to go to a whole year schedule to kind of make up for that. But that's a whole nother conversation to have. The main thing is that we just don't have people at home. And so then when we think about it like this too, when you have a single parent household, whether it's just mom or it's just dad at home, you have a parent now, because every household requires 2 incomes. There's no way you're getting out of this, out of any of this without having 2 incomes in the home, period. And so if you got a single parent at home who's working 2 jobs, most likely that parent's not getting home till 11 o'clock or some late time like that. They don't even have time to see their kids by the time they go to bed. If the kid is still up, the parent's like, oh, what are you still doing up? Go to bed now. They don't have time to sit there with the homework. They don't have time to make sure that their kid is on point. You know, that guy in the beginning, like he said, he's only been with these kids for roughly 30 days. He's a new teacher, and he still hasn't quite figured out the economic impact. But at the same time, he's not wrong. Parents don't know that their 7th graders are at a 4th grade level. If you only spend a few seconds with your kid, they seem fine. They seem normal. They seem all right. There's no problems. But in reality, that kid is coming home from school. They're busting out their video game or their cell phone or something like that, and they're not doing their homework. They're not doing their extra studies. And that's where the problems lie. You know, as a parent myself, I see it. I see it in other kids. I see it in my own child. There's just not enough time to work with these kids. And with all the extra agenda stuff that you see going into the schools, and by now it's no longer a conspiracy theory. We know that there's like pride agendas that are happening, racial education agendas, there's new sexual education, and there's all these extra little programs and things, no matter how you feel about them, all this extra stuff is being shoved into the classrooms. And these kids are spending less and less time focusing on primary studies. And these teachers are stuck with only a little bit of time to educate them. There's too much pollution in our educational system. And I hear a lot of conservatives talking about we need to just get rid of the Department of Education. I don't know about getting rid of it. I think it just needs to be completely revamped. I think our whole education structure needs to be looked at once again. We need to sit down with these parents that the FBI are, chasing away from the meetings. We need to have people in the school boards that are willing to listen to what these parents are saying. We need to get rid of all this extra education stuff that's not needed. And I know some people will push back on that point. No, we need these sexual educations. We need this racial education. But the reality of it is we were already on a good pace to acceptance before we started shoving all this stuff in the schools. So now all you have is kids that all they think about is this stuff, and they're not thinking about math. They're not reading any extra books. They're not spending time growing their minds in the right places. So what we're going to end up having here in the next few years is we're going to have a whole generation or two of kids that are like experts in sexual education and racial education, what have you. But when it comes to basic math, doing taxes and things that they need to survive, they're going to fail all over the place. And we're going to be sitting here wondering why these generations can't provide for themselves. It's definitely something to think about. Parents need to sit down together and figure out a plan. And honestly, and I said this a long time ago in one of my earliest episodes, and I also said this as a guest host on Get Real America. Parents need to prioritize as well what is most important in their lives. Is putting a BMW in the driveway the most important thing? Or is making sure that your child is ready for college or ready to leave the nest the most important thing? Something to definitely consider. Get down in the chat below. Let me know what you think about this article and all the articles before. And I'm going to get to the last thing real quick because I think it definitely deems revisiting. From Breitbart, we have Russell Brand again in the news. And Paramount Plus, according to the Breitbart article, Paramount Plus removes Russell Brand comedy special while continuing to stream Harvey Weinstein movies. I talked about this the other day. Lives a TikTok made the same point. These platforms have no problem continuing to show people that have committed the same crimes that Russell Brand is being accused of. But for some reason, they're attacking Russell Brand directly. Why is that? And I think we know why. Like we talked about in the last episode, it's all about curbing the agenda. It's all about making sure that the leftist values, the leftist views aren't being attacked. And Russell Brand has really come out against a lot of this stuff. Whether it's stuff with COVID or whether it's gender stuff, there's so many things that Russell Brand has come out about that really pokes at these agendas. And, you got to ask yourself, what happened to freedom of speech? So what do? They don't like being insulted. They don't like being put in check. So they specifically go after him instead of, as this example shows, Weinstein. The article goes on to say the Paramount Plus streaming service has removed Russell Brand's 2009 comedy special from its platform in the latest act of corporate censorship against politically inconvenient British star who is facing allegations of rape and other forms of sexual misconduct. Paramount's decision to pull Russell Brand live from New York comes as its streaming service continues to offer several Harvey Weinstein movies as well as Roman Polanski film. Both Weinstein and Polanski are sex offenders. The former was convicted and the latter pled guilty. Meanwhile, the Brand accusations thus far remained unsubstantiated allegations in the eyes of the law. And this is true. No charges have formally been brought against Russell Brand. So the attack against his character, the attack against his stream and the services and his old videos, is completely out of line. If you're going to promote other people that have literally been convicted, at the very least, you need to wait to see what happens with Russell Brand. This is just making it obvious that this has nothing to do with moral standards like they want to pretend it is. This is obviously a movement against anything that could be deemed as or considered conservative view. Russell himself has something to say about this whole thing. And this is a follow-up, and so I'm going to let him say it, and then we will finish up.
Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Obviously, it's been an extraordinary and distressing week, and I thank you very much for your support and for questioning the information that you've been presented with. By now, you're probably aware that the British government have asked big tech platforms to censor our online content, and that some online platforms have complied with that request. What you may not know is that this happens in the context of the Online Safety Bill, which is a piece of UK legislation that grants sweeping surveillance and censorship powers, and it's a law that has already been passed. I also don't imagine you've heard of the Trusted News Initiative. Now, as is often the case when a word like trusted is used as part of an acronym to describe an unelected body, trust is the last thing you should be offering. The Trusted News Initiative is a collaboration between big tech and legacy media organisations to target, control, choke and shut down independent media organisations, like this one. We'll be talking about that on our show on Monday on Rumble. But just to give you an idea of what the TNI is, this is a quote from one of their spokespeople. Because the actual real rivalry now is not between the BBC and CNN globally, it's actually between all trusted news providers and digital platforms. It's clear that these organisations collaborate in constructing narratives, whether that's around the war or the pandemic, and of course there are other examples. And it's very clear to me that we have to be very, very cautious indeed. That's why I'm asking you to follow me on Rumble. Rumble have made a clear commitment to free speech, and Rumble is the primary platform that we will be streaming from. We'll be back this Monday, and as usual, we'll be talking about deep state and corporate collusion and how ordinary democracy is anathema now, how it's shut down, ignored and avoided. We'll be talking about a military-industrial complex that is able to facilitate and start wars that seem sometimes to be little more than money laundering operations. And that's with all respect to the hundreds of thousands of victims of the numerous ongoing wars in the world at the moment. We'll be talking about the role of Big Pharma and how Big Pharma have been able to influence government policy around the world and how they've been able to evade due liability and necessary scrutiny, how they've been able to avoid media investigation that perhaps ought be due them. And of course, we'll be talking about media corruption and censorship. So please follow me on Rumble, because that's the only way that we can keep our voice. You can go to rb.rumble.com to support me directly and keep me and our channel independent. And I need your support now more than ever, and more than I ever imagined I would. So follow me, support our channel if you can, if it's within your means. But more important than any of that is that you please, if you can, stay free.
Great message there from Russell Brand. Definitely get to Rumble. Start using that platform if you actually want to hear what's going on, if you want to hear the truth. It's not all right-wing media, I swear. There's a lot of good stuff there on Rumble from all walks of life. But you're going to hear the truth. You're going to hear exactly what people are trying to say without all this massive censorship nonsense. Rumble has been a great platform to a lot of people. You know, Dan Bongino went over there when YouTube attacked him. Steven Crowder is over there. You know, and even though he's still on YouTube a bit, you know, he has a good primary foundation over there on Rumble. Many other commentators and a lot of other talents have found their place there on Rumble, And it's nice to know that they won't get shut down for senseless allegations. Rumble does have rules, and I highly suggest you check people out there, including this stream too. I have moved, or I put every single one of these episodes over there on Rumble. And I do know that if I continue to report the news in the way that I am, I continue to provide the sources that I do, that eventually YouTube is going to catch on. They're going to get tired of me, and they will end up shutting me down. And when that day does happen, when it does happen, I'm going to take that ban, and I'm going to print it out, and I'm going to put it in a nice glass frame, and you guys are going to see it right up here on the wall. I'm thinking like right here in this blank spot that has nothing in it. If not, I'm going to pull out my green screens, and we're going to throw that thing up real big behind me on that green screen. You know, I have plans for that. You know, these mainstream platforms, they are pushing a narrative. You know, they want to accuse us for pushing a conspiracy narrative, but the reality of it is their narrative is what is the conspiracy. They are pushing that there's no migration problem at the border. They're pushing information about certain pharmaceuticals that we had to take. And I remember when they used to say that it was 100% effective in preventing you from getting sick. You know, they're pushing all these crazy narratives that they just want everybody to go along with. And when somebody like Russell Brand or anybody comes out and they say something about it, all of a sudden the person who's pushing back is the problem. Guys, this is We Talk Freely. I'm going to wrap it up here because I've got to get to my job, my second job. I want you to think about some of the things that we talked about here today. The episode, I tried to go as fast as I could and get the information out the best that I could today. May have been a little bit garbled, but you know, let me know what you think about these articles in the comments below. Your feedback is extremely important for the growth of this show, and I want to be able to do much bigger and much better things, and all that change helps, right? And help comes from you. So thank you so much, especially if you made it all the way to this point. Thank you so much for watching this show. My name is Drew Smith. Check us out, you know, over there on Rumble. It should be WTF official. Every episode that we post on YouTube will be there. And until, Sunday, y'all stay safe.